Real questions, real answers for real life. Come on in and pull up a chair. You're at 1850 Main Street with Michael DelGiorno and David Zanotti.
So, if people on the left and right can agree that depopulation is a bad thing, why are there so many popular policies making it worse?
Last time we were talking, you ended with a big question. And the question came home to me in this last year, studying what's been going on across the country in the quest of the Democrat Party, assisted greatly, if not orchestrated by George Soros and company, seizing upon individual states that have ballot access for constitutional amendments and forwarding the agenda of abortion on demand through, as a human right, as a civil right, as a right for women, as a right of autonomy, and in essence, tearing down the very notion that there can or should be in American culture any regulation whatsoever in regards to child rearing and abortion, eliminating from the conversation historically the tradition that we have held that when a woman is pregnant, what she is carrying within her is unique and human. It is alive and developing. And if that developing human is damaged from outside agency, that is a crime. In other words, if you get into a car wreck and the woman survives, the child dies, there's criminal prosecutions. If a woman is injured, or if in fact she's assaulted and she survives and the child dies, that is criminal liability for the perpetrator. This has been our tradition for as long as anyone can look back in history books, and it precedes America. We have completely divorced ourselves from that notion whatsoever and made the concept of abortion a human right that must be celebrated, must be honored, must be treasured, and anyone who is opposed to it is in fact anti-woman, anti-human, anti-democracy, anti-American, and must be obliterated. Even the language of the Ohio Amendment that passed put in restrictions against any form of interference with the execution of this right of a reproductive decision and 4 other forms of reproductive decisions, but not limited to the total of 5, an unlimited constitutional amendment. In other words, what we're putting into law is a celebration of total autonomy. So I watched this election unfold in Ohio. 2 million people in Ohio came forward and being grandly manipulated by George Soros and company, the Billionaires Club, spending $40 million. And we found out, again, we learn more every single day about what they did. They spent $35 million of it in just a 90-day period, and the biggest bulk of it in the last 2 weeks. Can you imagine? They had to be spending at least $500,000 a day on media alone in one state. And what was their message? We must pull off any barriers, any restrictions. Stop the extreme people who are trying to take away your right. They're trying to take away your right, take away your right. Well, Michael, the right to abortion has always been here because anybody can get an abortion. The law can't stop them. It's a question of you already have the human autonomy.
And more, they're not even procedures anymore. They're pharmaceutical.
No, that's right.
And soon they'll be all pharmaceutical. So no one will even know.
This whole thing is this giant hype, like, again, trying to recreate Les Mis in a constitutional construct and a campaign to get people to be, and then you watch the response of people that voted. 2 million people in Ohio voted this, and you watch on election night, the day after, their responses. It's as if the Wicked Witch of the death of the West just died. It's as if Abraham Lincoln just declared the Emancipation Proclamation. It's as if we just ended the war with Japan or the war in Europe. It's as if these people have this basic innate cry that suddenly they have been liberated from this phenomenal oppression. And you think to yourself, what is the oppression? Bearing a child. What is the oppression? The gift of life. And what is the remedy? Destroy it. And what does that mean? Autonomy, freedom.
We used to be life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. Its origin, of course, is the Declaration of Independence. We kind of shortened it and created the slogan that you grew up with, I grew up with, God, family, country. What are we now in Ohio? What are we going to soon be in Virginia, Florida, or any other nation that embraces us? What's the new slogan?
Well, think about this. Yeah, think about this. We had 2 million people go out on election night, vote on an amendment that they hadn't even read. They didn't know who wrote it. And that, in essence, basically sold the Constitution of the state of Ohio for their votes so that Planned Parenthood could write their business plan into the state constitution in the name of autonomy. We're free. We're free from what? We're free from the responsibility of having to bear children. Now women are finally truly free. Forced childbirth ends.
We sold liberty during COVID for a very small check of a few $1,000s. One day when we all bump into each other in heaven, you may bump into a founding father who's going to look at you and say, we risked everything. We gave our flesh, our lives, our wealth. You mean you sold your liberty over a brief virus that you didn't look into and trusted others to weaponize and paralyze you in fear for $2,000? For $10,000? What was the price? And now we're doing it with life. And then pursuit of happiness won't need to be bought because it'll be just replaced with depression and hopelessness. Because once you don't have life and liberty, well, give me liberty or give me death.
Well, where's the significance of this going forward politically? The significance of this is the simple reality that the social conditioners, that's what C.S. Lewis called them, the Soros and company group are really the social conditioners. They basically pay to make all the power move into the administrative state where unknown bureaucrats make all these decisions over people's lives. Now, they use big campaigns and candidates and issues like abortion. It's not because they're in love with the idea of setting women free. They love the idea of a smaller population because it's easier for them to control. They love the idea of an economy in crisis because they have enough money when everything goes bad. They have not only enough money to survive.
To pick winners and losers.
But exactly.
Choose who survives and who doesn't.
George Soros is in the business of shorting the human race. Just like he shorted European currencies to make himself a wealthy, wealthy man, he's shorting the human race. He wants to see less humans because it gives him all the more power. That's the global billionaire club. They think they have godlike powers because they're so rich, they're completely untouchable.
And those behind the creation of an administrative state and the execution of an administrative state versus a living republic, they have the same amount of money and the same goals.
But it is a means to an end. To them, it's a means for political power, and abortion is for them the ultimate wedge issue because it's no longer at all a discussion about the killing of an innocent unborn child in the womb. That discussion never came into the Ohio debate. No matter how many people tried to bring it in through paid media or earned media, and if you try to bring that debate in through social media, they will ban you, they will lock you out. It was the concept. We're no longer talking about abortion. We're no longer talking about the thing that we're supposed to be talking about, the amendment to, quote, enshrine abortion. It was an amendment to enshrine autonomy.
I never enjoy admitting I'm wrong to you, but I have to. There was a time about 2 years ago. Actually, it's just the opposite. I delight in these moments. I really didn't get you. I really didn't get where you were at. And at the time you were saying, no, it all goes back to the Supreme Court and when they changed the definition of personhood.
Yeah.
David, you and your team or whomever wants to do it should take that moment and begin the timeline and see everything that has come from that. At the time, it was gay marriage. And there was a lot of people who felt like, well, I'm not gay, but if they're gay and they want to be married, there's no compulsion for everybody to live in Christianity. Let's just change the laws. Same thing. They made the transition from once you redefine personhood, then we go into all this transgendered chaos. We go into all of this cultural chaos and justice chaos and equity and inclusion. And just the rails come off and then lead to this. And now it's no longer, there's no voice for the unborn. There's no position for life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness for the unborn. It's separate DNA, but we treat it like it's a mole. And if you want to remove it, remove it. You've really nailed it, that it really is the A. We had a long discussion, I think it was 6 days ago or so, and we came down to all the things they're doing from climate change to what have you. Only abortion is a winnable political play for them with all of this legal and cultural chaos and decline playing right into its hands. I am convinced that autonomy is the A, abortion is the issue, and it is the disease that even the Atlantic would have to agree. Sooner or later, we go broke or we're unsustainable.
And Elon Musk is saying the same thing. I mean, you can go across the board. You can go from the most conservative right. You can go to Elon Musk. You can go to the most liberal left, and anybody that can count and has the slightest brain in their head about what an economy is driven by knows that without consumers, you have no economy. Without a workforce, you have no economy. Without human intellect and capital to produce and to create, you have no pursuit of happiness because you have no economy. And the other guys don't care. Why? Because autonomy, which now is equivalent with abortion, and the whole ride to rights is their way of eliminating the founding formulas of our country, eliminating any politician, political party, independent group that is standing for the founding and the framing principles, and in essence, acquiring all the power unto themselves so that they can then set the rules and decide what everything's going to be like. And remember, they don't care if our economy is half the size it is right now. It won't cost them a dime.
So autonomy equals abortion equals ultimately control of whatever's left after collapse. Speaking of A's, does the American people get this yet? Do they see it yet? The left is starting to see it. The right sees it. I don't think they might even agree on the gene, but will they agree on the solution? You know they won't.
Well, I know this much, that the pro-life community doesn't get it. Because if they did, they would be running campaigns that are completely different from what we've been seeing.
Like, give a couple examples.
Well, now, and to be fair to them, this is not easy.
No,
you're basically standing against the grand finale of Les Mis, saying, "Excuse me, could we rewrite this song?" I mean, the emotion that is and the baggage that is packed behind this. Basically, what Soros and company are doing through Planned Parenthood is they're taking all of the grievances, many of which are just grievances of an entire culture and multiple generations, particularly of women who have had difficulties in life, whatever the circumstances is, whatever the injustices, mitigating against a perfection culture. There's so many things that are broken marriages, broken families, broken childhoods. All of that angst is mitigated against toward one point, and that one point is in Jack Black language from the School of Rock, it comes down to stick it to the man meiosis. The idea is the problem is moral authority, and we must be free from moral authority. And the moral authority in this country is rich, it's white, it's Republican, and it must end, and women must finally be set free from the slavers. Now, this is what the people in Ohio, 2 million of them voted for this amendment. They didn't even know what it was. They couldn't answer a test on it. They couldn't tell you who wrote it. The people that presented it didn't even feel obligated to tell you who wrote it, and the media never asked. Was this about abortion? How could it have been about abortion? Nobody asked any questions about abortion. But the whole time they ran the campaign, they said this was to enshrine abortion in the state constitution and therefore protect women's rights from the extremists that were trying to hurt them.
Enshrine them, demonize anyone that opposes.
When you subscribe to 1850 Main Street, you're the first to find out what's happening next with new guests, publications, and events. And when you spread the word about 1850 Main Street, you're helping others find real answers to the real questions facing America right now. To learn more, visit 1850mainstreet.com. And please, tell a friend.
I have to tell you, and it's not been fun, it's been a very painful observation. I've just been watching, and some will get it spiritually right, flawless. Some don't get it spiritually at all. Some get it politically and policy-wise. Some don't get it at all. Some get it historically in context and sustainable in looking forward. Others don't. I listened to a podcast this week where I think I got a sense, and it's just me that got the sense, that these individuals spiritually get it. They thought they politically got it. They thought they could change the winds of recent history and win, and found themselves looking into the eyes of a monster.
Yeah.
And they sounded not just broken, scared to death to me. How important is it to get all four? Why is it so hard?
Well, because we're human. There's a great psalm that King David talked about. And he talked about the Hebrew concept at that time of the relationship of understanding the Creator. And David said, he remembers our form. He knows that we're made of dust. We're dusty, and we don't get it. And we can forget the most important lessons. We've basically forgotten all the lessons of World War II and totalitarianism, because these are the same kind of players with the same kind of agendas that are trying to create the perfect race of people that they can control.
When you're watching these college campuses and these protests happening in our inner city and the splinters and divide within the Democrat Party, David, I'll do you one better. We forgot the lessons of 9/11.
Yeah. Oh, yes, we do forget, and we forget quickly. And in spite of being an information technology age where we're supposed to have more information than ever, Michael, there's times I think we might be the dumbest people that have ever walked the face of the earth because we forget so much so quickly, and we are so distracted. And here's another important point, I think. People today are for autonomy. Francis Schaeffer said it this way. He believed, and he died in 1984, that the future of America would collapse based upon two virtues that would rise above all the others. The first was affluence. In other words, give me what I want. I want a lot. Affluence. And the second was personal peace. Give me what I want. Leave me alone.
Me alone. I was going to say that translates to leave me alone.
Right. That's autonomy. Give me what I want and leave me alone.
Which is why an entire generation got so sucked into the social dilemma, so sucked into technology and social media, and now can't communicate one with another.
And here's where this really comes home, like getting a piano dropped on you in an Acme cartoon. When we looked at the numbers in the Ohio vote in 2020, the Ohio vote for Donald Trump, just in one major county alone, was in excess of 200,000. Now, he lost that county. It was a big Democrat county, but even in a big Democrat county, the biggest county in the state, Cuyahoga County, he got over 200,000 votes. That's 3 years ago, 36 months ago. The opposition to the abortion amendment, the huge issue one, and all that it meant for reproductive decisions, that vote count was 99,000 people voting no, the opposition. And we tracked the Trump numbers versus the vote no numbers across the 7 most significant counties in the state, and we found almost exactly the same trend. In other words, there are lots of people, not all, but lots of people who voted for Donald Trump, who voted for J.D. Vance in 2022, who didn't bother to cast a vote at all about abortion. You know what their answer to that is? We're tired of hearing about it. We're tired of talking about it. We're not having abortions. We don't care if anybody else does either. That is not just morally corrupt. Economically, it's treacherous.
Well, that's what we appreciate even our leftist friends at The Atlantic for making that clear this week. I said COVID revealed more than it actually caused. I think your election in Ohio revealed more. In fact, I don't even know what it will cause. There's going to be so many legal battles. It's so poorly written. But isn't there a good chance, David, it revealed something very crystal clear about even how focused on the sacredness of life the pro-life community is, or the Republican Party is?
Well, we know for certain that the theory that if all the church people in America just showed up and voted for something, that it would be number one, all the church people they don't understand what it means to be pro-life, and they don't understand why it's so significant for a dozen or more reasons. Number two, they don't all show up. And number three, if they did, I guess two's enough. Number one, they don't show up. And number two, they don't all believe the same way, leading us to the conclusion that I heard one person say this week in Ohio, the remnant is significantly smaller than we had thought it was for all these many years. Yeah, no kidding. The reality is you can't win on the abortion issue or any other issue if you don't reach people who are out there. Now, is that possible? The Ohio amendment lost 2 million to 1.6 million. There's 1.6 million voters who came out and got it. Now, that's 3.6 million. The problem is this. There's 8 million registered voters in the state of Ohio. The last presidential election brought out 5.9 million of them. This issue, which I would wager to tell you is far more important than any presidential election in regards to the health and future of the American family, of human individuals, and our economy, it drew 3.6 million votes. Well, you know what that means? Most people don't get it, and most people don't care. And see, the Planned Parenthood, ACLU, progressive left, driven by Soros and the Billionaires Club, they know that. They're using this to accumulate power for their regime to shut down their opposition.
And they're smart to do it. I want to just run this by you. Okay, so we run down all the numbers statistically just to figure out, why do we have too few births, too many deaths? Why is this economically and culturally unsustainable? Because even the left agrees we're going to die from within. And then we know all the different numbers, breakdown of the family, people marrying later, maybe not even having a family, maybe not even having children, the impact of abortion, climate change that has convinced people fewer people will mean our resources will last longer, gay populations that are outside of adoption, increasing women's presence in the workplace that we've done for 60 years. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's had an effect. Violence, drug overdoses, a particular problem in the last decade, abortion for the last 5 decades.
Let's talk about perpetual poverty in the inner city and rural communities.
Absolutely. And then gun violence and so on. All right. So that's how you get there numbers wise. That's one thing. But really, does it all boil down to somebody orchestrating a very strategic and tactical targeted attack from within that is working, that creates a destroyed economy, creates what's left of the people that survive, very weakened, very controllable for their manipulation? And that's where I want to finish with this quote. Autonomy equals abortion equals unsustainability. A is also insane. Even this week, The Atlantic and The Week acknowledge the U.S. depopulation crisis is a mortal danger to survival. Yet the abortion industry and the Democrat regime are using A to make billions and win elections while dragging American culture into an immediate, shallow grave. The evolution of A will be the death of humankind. They know it, and they still don't care. The question is, David, by the way, whose quote is that?
Did you get permission to did you get permission to read that quote on the air? That's a text I sent you. You know that.
Do I have permission?
Yeah, I guess now.
Okay.
Yeah, we just did it.
Well, and we're not on the air, right? We're just at a table talking. Say the secret word, you win a dog. No, the question is, does anybody get it? And who will get it? And by the time they get it, will it be too late and consequences already arrived?
Yeah, and that's the grave danger. Can we awaken in time? Michael, there are so many factors contributing to the decline of the human civilization, to the decline of the repopulation and the sustaining population of American culture. There are people who actually applaud that because they hate America. Most people don't. They really don't. The biggest problem we have is not the conspiracy, because it's not a conspiracy. It's open in plain sight. The biggest conspiracy of all is our forgetfulness. We forget that without a thriving population that treasures life, we die.
So choose this day whom you will serve. The Ohio vote, all of America, all of the research of The Atlantic and Jeffrey and The Week and this conversation points to. Maybe this is what freaked out those evangelicals in the podcast I was listening to. They found out we're not a nation under God. The people of this country are beginning more and more in a majority to choose self over God and autonomy over God, family, country, and community.
Yeah.
Now what?
The conversations are just getting started. To get connected, check out 1850mainstreet.com. We don't data mine anyone or sell your information. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single conversation. We'll see you next time here at 1850 Main Street.